What's going on, everyone? It is a rainy Saturday morning, and actually it's like noon, so not morning, afternoon. Got out here. I'm going to hopefully get the motor set today, so kind of gonna walk you through that. If you're wanting to, set up motor plates, get your driveline in, I guess, the right direction, head to the right direction. It's not too difficult, just making sure everything's straight and in line. We got a couple little tools that'll help with that. We've used those over and over again, so I'll kind of show you those once we get rolling on this. I gotta do a couple things beforehand. There's a few spots I gotta weld, and then there's a couple holes that I want to fill, like this one, because the motor plate is going to sit, like the motor plate mount is actually going to sit like right here. So I want to fill that so I'm not struggling later. And then I'm going to worry about the firewall later. The rest of it, at least. There's a lot of patch panels that need made. Like, we're not using this. So got a little bit to go on that, but I will, I'm gonna bust this out real quick, and then we will go ahead and get the rear end, make sure it's aligned, make sure it's straight in the car. We kind of did that when we did the 4-link bars, but the car's been moved and stuff like that, and it doesn't have a wishbone in it, so the rear end kind of floats around a little bit. So I'm gonna put the rear end actually on jack stands so it doesn't move around. I would build a wishbone, but I don't have the Heims for the end. They've been on a couple week back order, so kind of waiting on those. But everything else for a wishbone's here. I just don't have those. So I'm going to get started on this, and then once I get to the point of getting the rear end lined up, motor plate set, I will start filming more and show you guys what goes into getting the motor set and moving the motor where we want it for what we're gonna do. So stay tuned. All right, so I got the firewall somewhat filled. I filled a few of the holes more than I thought. This is the original one I wanted to fill because there's gonna be a plate right here, and then I got this one, that one, that one, all the little ones. Still ton more to fill. It's super time consuming because it is 4 o'clock right now and I haven't even started on the motor plate. So goes to show you, I didn't really take any breaks. It just takes a long time to fit each little individual piece. So finally got around to the back here. I wanted to make sure the ride height is where I wanted it, and this is kind of what I'm looking at running. To set the motor plates, I need to know ride height. So like I said, on the jig, this is a lot easier because we can just set the tire on the jig and it's done. But I'm using a jack because I just wanted to see what the ride height is. So I got the rear end pretty much level. I'm not really worried about side to side. I'll do that here in a minute, but I got this, somewhat in line with the axle tubes. So I think that's the ride height we're going to set the motor plates at. That way, so we can get those set where we need to. So I'm going to get the rear end kind of realigned because it's just kind of floating there. As you can tell, it's a little off. I don't have this thing perfectly. If you guys are looking for a good laser, we kind of tried an Amazon laser, and it turned out pretty well. I think this thing's like $35. And it has worked phenomenal. So we have not, we were going to buy a more expensive one, but said hell with it and bought a $35 one, and it is pretty badass. So it's a little tip of the day. So I'm gonna get that aligned, and then I'll show you what we use to align the motor plates and all that fun stuff here in a minute. All right, so got the laser set up. I made reference marks way long ago when we actually built the chassis, so they're still on there. So Got that one lined up, and then I have one back there, and then I have one on this cross X right here. So I got the rear end basically right where pinion center is. So I will go ahead and I'm probably gonna set pinion angle. I don't, either I'm gonna set pinion angle or I'm gonna take off to at least the upper 4-link bars. That way I can let the rear end pivot, because I'm about to show you what we use. So obviously it's an LS motor going in here. We have mock-up blocks over here. I gotta dig them out. So this is all of our mock-up bolt stuff. Hey, shout out to Motion Racehorse with their new alternator bracket that goes on the passenger side. Had to pick one of those up because we're gonna need it. So here is our mock-up blocks, and we use aluminum blocks because this is why. We can drag them, lift them. We don't have to, you know, throw our backs out to lift an iron block. So I had these made a long time ago. I think they are whatever the mains are size out, like the outer diameter, and then the inside is actually 1 5/8". So what we do is we go over to our tubing and we get a piece long enough to run from the mains of the motor all the way to the rear end. So we'll get an 1 5/8" piece and we'll run that all the way through here, and then it ends up in our 9-inch third member. It's just a bare third member. This is the same one we used for narrowing rear ends and setting up rear ends, so it still has alignment blocks for that. But on the front, I had this made along with the plates I just showed you. So this is actually pinion center. This is 1 5/8". So we'll have a bar running all the way through, and I will show you that when we get there. But I am going to go and align the rear end, get it squared up in the car to the number 1 bar. That way the rear end's not cockeyed. When we stick that bar in there, the good thing about this bar is when you have it in there, when you move the motor, you're moving the rear end. So it kind of self-corrects itself, if that makes sense. So it that way it can sit in here, and you know, you move it this way, the rear end will follow. You got to watch a little bit because the tube does have some bend to it, but that way you don't have to, I guess, you don't have to guess. You have a straight bar all the way through. So that's the correct way to set motor plates. And then from there, you'll set your pinion angle once you get that out. So I'm going to make sure the rear end is kind of straight, and then I will pick you guys back up. So I'll go ahead and get you guys situated, and we'll get the motor going, get the rear end aligned. So I will pick you guys up in a second. All right, so I got the rear end squared and centered. I got the third member in, our mock-up third member with the aluminum, I don't know what you call that, jig, 1 5/8" hole in it. So the rear end is square with the car. I am going to get the motor set and get the bar ran through it, and we'll kind of play with the motor placement once I get it in there. I'm probably going to pull, I might pull the oil pan off of the motor to check ground clearance, but I can also just take a measurement. This has a ton of room for oil pan clearance, so I'm not really worried about it trying to fit in this stuff. I am going to bolt in the steering rack because that is going to be a kind of a, I don't know, an obstacle to go around. So I'm going to get that bolted up and then get the motor in, and then we'll go from there. All right, so got the motor over here. This is our mock-up block. Obviously, you can tell it's our mock-up block because, you know, there's massive cracks and whatnot, and we got one over there that the whole side of the cylinder is missing. So that's what we use these for. I'm going to get this in the car, probably put it on some type of, I don't know, 2x4, something to get it set right. It's kind of tough hanging it with the engine hoist because the engine hoist leaks down and you can go and measure something and then 5 minutes later come back and it's sagged a little bit. So I want to make sure things stay where they are. I might get the transmission jack over here. That way I can, adjust it and whatnot. So I went ahead and put the oil pan on it just because I want to check clearance on that, on the steering rack, because this is a Racecraft K member. Obviously this one, it's going to be cut here, like I said before, with the 2-bolt or the 4-bolt flanges. So I believe it moves this one in front of the steering rack. The normal K member is back here, I believe, something like that. So I know this is going to be kind of close, but it'll still allow us to take the oil pan on and off. So that way, if you're at the track and you got 3 rods hanging out, you can change them and keep racing, that type deal. So I'm gonna get this up in there, and yeah, then we'll go from there. All right, so I got the motor in there. I got the tranny jack under there. Probably gonna support the back of that, and then I'm gonna stick some 2x4s under here to get it set. Kind of get it where I want, at least semi mocked up. Hey, shout out to Motion Raceworks for a lift plate. We use it almost every time with the LS motor, doing motor plates. Shout out. So I'm gonna try and explain what we do as far as motor placement, crank center line, that type stuff. So I am going to measure. So we're looking at, like, let's see here, like 25.25 to the center of the axle housing. So that comes out to be, so 25.25. Let me grab some paper and I'll kind of show you. All right, so we had 25.25 back there. We're gonna be running a 28-inch tall tire most of the time. So we're gonna set the car up for 28s. We will be running 26s, but we're not gonna. Most time we'll be on 275, so we'll just adapt to the 26s. So we got 25.25, half of 28. You got 14. So 25.25 minus 14. So it's 11.25 from the center of the axle tube to the ride height that we're going to be at. So that's kind of what we're going to be looking at here in a second. So I'll write that number down so I don't forget it, because I'll forget if I don't. So we got, looks like right at 22. We're gonna just do this for the sake of measurement. So 22 minus 11.25, you'd be looking at a 10.75 inch center line, which is really low for this. We're gonna be doing, this isn't a radial car. We're not gonna be doing high horsepower. We're mostly gonna be doing like small local grudge races, some no prep stuff. So basically wherever we can fit in, we're gonna race. We might, race radial in some class that, for us budget people, which is not possible. But so yeah, that is where it's at currently. So obviously it's going to come up from there because I don't want it at that. Probably going to shoot for like a probably a 13-inch crank center line. Let's kind of see what that looks like. I'm going to bring this up a little bit. Let's see what this is at now. we are at 22.5. So that really only raised a 1/2 inch. Well, so we're at 11.25 now. So got a little bit ways to go. The thing I have to watch out about is this car's gonna be pretty low. So we have to go down here and check out oil pan clearances. So right now we'll be good. This normal K members, the tabs for the lower control arms are hanging down, and this would be up here, running across here. But this is Racecraft one, is their ultra swap, so it drops all of this underneath. So anything under this or over this won't get hit. So right now the oil pan is pretty clear, so I'm happy about that. So this is dropped way down. I guess we could walk over to Mike's car, because he's got, we set his up for like street type stuff. Well, we got the motor out now, but we set his back pretty far. His is set back, you know, without touching the firewall. It's a back about far as, oh, excuse me, as far as it can go. So I don't know if we'll do that. I kind of have to think about where we're gonna have weight in the car. Now that we're gonna be putting the radiator in the front, we're gonna have a lot more front nose weight. So the rear's gonna have a fuel cell, but regular racing, we're not gonna run a fuel cell. So there's not much gonna be in the back. So really this motor probably needs to be where Mike's is. We're not gonna, like I said, it's not gonna be a radial car. We're not gonna, you know, have a 60-40 weight split. I'd like to be pretty balanced. That way we can add weight where we need to. So I'm gonna play around with this a little bit. And then I will, I guess I can show you guys the tube we run through there. So I'm going to measure this, and then we get a tube cut, and I will show you where we slide it and what it looks like. All right, so I got the engine 5/8 tubing stuck all the way through there. So obviously you can see it goes through this main. Hold on, there we go. Goes through that main. They are bolted in. I do have main caps on there. So through there, and then all the way back to the rear end housing. So that keeps it pretty straight. I can move this a little. I mean, I can't move it a lot. Like, that's as far as I can. So it kind of keeps it, you can see it bounce, you know, between the just the play and the stuff. So it does keep it centered. I do have to watch myself, because I will have to make measurements and make sure everything's square and centered and stuff. But at least gives me, you know, it keeps it aligned. It keeps everything where it needs to be, so things aren't walking all over and whatnot. So that is set. I'm gonna play with some crank centerline stuff, see what I can get. Like I said, I'm probably gonna aim for like a 13. I gotta get some weight back somehow, so probably what I'm gonna aim for. With this K-member stuff, I can pretty much put it wherever I need to. I'm not real concerned with that. Steering shaft is way out of the way and stuff, so should be good on that end. I think that's it for, I think that's about it. I'm just going to play around with this, crunch some numbers, and then see what I come up with, and I'll keep you guys updated. All right, so got it set where I wanted. I set it at 12.5. I think that's about where I want it. 13 seemed a little high. 12, 11 starts getting low, and I don't. This is a tough decision, because once you mount it, you're pretty much set unless you can move motor mount stuff around. So I think I'm just going to shoot for 12.5. Kind of gives me a middle ground. I can still move weight around if needed. So I got just some 2x4s and shims on the rack, because I know that's level. And then the transmission jack just to hold the back up. This is just loose now. This sags overnight, so this thing will be touching that if I leave it on. So I make sure it's supported under there. And I know that I know that this all is level, so the car is leveled out on the jacks. So let's see what this ends up being. Let's see here. So you're looking at 1/4 of a degree. So like even if I bump this a tiny bit, I'm barely putting any pressure on that, and it's 1/10 of a degree off. So that got me pretty close. It only took me a couple minutes to get settled. I just have to make sure that the pinion in the rear is parallel or perpendicular to the bar. So the only way I do that is I just turn this, and you know, it doesn't bind. It tells me it's free in the rear, and that that plate in the back is probably 1.5 inches thick. So if there's any pinion offset from the tube, it'll pinch the tube, and it won't, you know, I can't spin this by hand. So that's kind of the way I set. I'll get that way I can set pinion kind of. So where it's sitting right there, that's pinion, you know, that's 0 degree. I mean, there might be, you know, 1/4 of a degree up or down just because the tube is not perfectly in there. There's a slight slip, so, but at least gets me in the ballpark. That way I can go. Now I can grab my plates. So obviously these are ours. I do 1/4 inch aluminum on all of our builds. I'm not a huge fan of the 1/8 inch stuff in the back. So these are obviously they have our logo in them and stuff. So Innovative Metalworks hooked us up on the material for the motor plates. They gave us a huge discount on the metal for the rear end housing. So they've been helping us out a ton. So if you guys need any laser cutting, machine work, whatever, hit them up, and they do great work. So that's my shout out to them. So now that I got this all set, I'm actually going to start cutting the motor plates. There's not much else for me to I'm going to double check the side to side. Side to side's kind of iffy because frame rails in these are obviously they're shit. That's the only way to put them. They're not, there's really nothing you can go off of. And even like my tubes that I put in here, if they're off, you know, 1/4 inch, my measurement side to side will be off. So even if I were to go across here and measure side to side, it wouldn't be the true chassis side to side. So I do have the laser ran, and I'll probably use that to center it side to side. That way I can just run it down the tube, and I can see which side the laser's on and if I need to move it. So that's about it. I am going to probably get the motor plates cut, and I'm gonna get it measured, cut, and then we'll kind of go from there. So I did forget to mention that this car is a center pinion car. It has no offset on it, so everything I'm doing is because I know the car is centered, if that makes sense. So like this mid plate, I'm just trimming off. I just went over there, measured between the frame rails where the motor is about sitting. These don't have to be snug up to the frame rail. These are just, you know, you can have a little bit of a gap so you're not fighting it back and forth to get it in there. So this I know is the center of the car actually. This is, you know, the center of the motor basically. So I'm cutting off equal amounts on each side, and I'm going to do the same on the front plate because, like I said, I know it's a center pinion, so there's no offset. Everything is even. So this kind of helps align the motor also because I know I can stick this in there, and you know this is only going to have a 1/16 inch gap on each side, so it's going to center the motor also. So I'm still going to do measurements, but it still tells me about where it's going to land. All right, so it's Sunday afternoon. Had to do some chores, hang out with family, you know, the grown-up stuff. So I got back out here. I got a little bit done. Got the motor plate cut down last night, and then I got the plates for the mid plate tacked on. I made these. They're just little 2x4, just to beef this frame. This is pretty thin stuff here, so I beefed that up a little bit, and then made these. They're just 1/8 inch with 2 holes in, 2 3/8 holes. Got one on the other side. So I got those, and then I took a scribe and marked the holes. Got these drilled out. So mid plate's pretty much done. I'm just gonna set it back on the car, and then I'm gonna work on the front one. That way, so yeah, basically the rear's done. I am gonna weld this front side and the back side while, actually I'm just gonna weld the front side because I can't reach the back side with the motor in it. So once that's all done, I'll get the back side, and then we'll go from there. All right, so we're back out here. Mark's doing some carbon tub things. It's making the fun templates. So these pretty much just fit on, basically recreate a tub, but in cardboard, with way less expensive than a normal tub. So he's gonna get that fit up. I'm still working on the front motor plate. I know I kind of left you guys hanging this weekend. I ran out of time, so I'm just finishing this up, and then probably gonna do the transmission mount this week. Get that wrapped up. I think that's about it for tonight. Hopefully Mark gets, both tubs fit.
Not tonight. Maybe this week.
Too bad all these templates we're making don't fit.
Yeah. Well, there are other backups.
Yeah.
Not for me.
Yeah, it's the problem with having tons of different back halves and rear section styles. So basically this is the concept. Basically just make it fit the inside. The inside's kind of the tough part because there's all these different weird bumps and lumps, and making those fit kind of tough. Does that one fit pretty well?
It's not bad. I mean, it's pretty good right there, but I don't know if that's where you want the top of this one.
I mean, you're at the top of the window.
Oh, okay.
I don't think you really couldn't go any higher unless you notched out for the window. Which,
we don't want to do that.
Yeah. Be a lot of work.
Because not steamrollers.
Yeah. Be a lot of work to just have tubs that look cool in the window.
Looking cool is important, but
Yes.
faster.
You know what's even cooler? Getting it done before September. That is even cooler than fitting it to the window. All right, so Mark's going to show us what he does to fit some carbon tubs.
Yep, so I just cut it a little short usually, just kind of as close as I can, just eyeballing it. And then that way I can get it up in there and get it level or whatever, and then line up whatever I need to line up on this side, because this is where you're going to rivet it on. So this is kind of the important part. And then get it up in there, get outside, look at it, make sure everything's level all the way around it and everything. So, and then I tape it up where I need it, and then I'll just use tape and go along the edge and put the tape out to the body and just go around it as best as I can. And then I'll just set it on the tub and outline it, and then get that. And then you do it wrong the first time because it's in the wrong spot and you don't have enough on the other side of the tub, so you redo it, and then it works. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it, then I'll take 10 snips, because I usually cut the carbon the best, and just go close to my line, and then I'll take the drum sander usually, and get it up to the line, and then I'll start fitting the tub, and then wherever it hits, I'll obviously take a little bit more off until it pops up into place.
It's like arts and crafts over here.
Very much like arts and crafts over here. Cardboard and tape everywhere. To be fair, that's part of an old tub too, so.
True.
It's part of an old tent. That's the process. And then just be brave and cut into your $500 tubs.
And use a quarter of them.
Literally.
Yeah. So all this is pretty much gonna be scrapped.
Yeah, because it's too thin to use for very much else.
Yeah. We could maybe use this stuff. I don't know. This is thin. A drum. You can use it for a drum.
Yeah, good. That'd be a pretty cool drum set.
Yeah, just carbon fiber.
Yep.
So yeah, pretty much just goes in the little trash bin.
Pretty much.
All right, Gavin's gonna show us some tube bending expertise here. This is our most complicated main hoop. It's got like, how many bends?
8.
It's got 8 bends. So this is for the S197 850 and 25-3 kit. So it's got a ton of different bends. So this is the printout sheet we get from Bentech. I don't know if I showed that in the last video, but so basically it just shows you what's your cut length, if you can see that, your cut length, and then each bend is its own. It's got a location, rotation, and then an angle, and then a spring angle. So it's about the most complicated one to do. Gavin just loves doing these. So basically he's just going along and marking each spot where the bend needs to be. So this one's this is a good one to do right before lunch when you're just hangry and
and you just want to throw it. But you already messed it up once.
And the numbers are not easy numbers. They're like 38.07.
Luckily, I already cheated and marked it down where it needed to be at.
Oh.
From the last time we had to do it.
Yeah. So those need to be put into Bentech. I don't know how you would. You'd have to adjust the spring number.
I don't know. That's just write it down. I mean,
Yeah.
It's easier.
Yeah. That depends on the tubing you get too.
Yep. Shapiro's bends or springs back a little bit more. And then wherever we got that other stuff springs back a bunch.
Yeah. So I'll show you that after lunch, and Gavin's over here, or Mark's over here making templates for all of the holes, the many holes.
There's lots of holes.
We just did this on the shop car, so we thought that the templates are gonna work, but hey, I'll get that for you. Oh, look. So we thought some of these templates were gonna work, but this had like a welded plate on the back of some of these. So it was literally just 1/8" steel someone had welded on there, so it kind of ruined our templates we already had. So now he's got to make all new ones.
Yep.
It was quite a blast.
Got a collection going on up here.
Yeah, these take forever because each one's different. So it's like you got to cut all of these out, and circles are not easy to make at all.
Because of course they're not the size of a hole saw.
Yeah.
Why would they be?
Yeah.
That would be too easy.
They're probably metric. And then I have been working on Jason's car. Been working on the floor structure. So getting the floor structure fit into the floor takes a little bit of time. So it's coming along. I just have to do, so normally a number 9 bar, the one you see on the other side, isn't needed on the passenger side, but we always add it just for added strength. So that's what I'm working on. But we're about to head to lunch. We got the lunch on Fridays, and it's about that time. Again,
It's lunchtime.
it's lunchtime.
For our business.
Because what happened to the other one?
May have forgot to rotate it. just a second, Ben. It's all right.
He just goes along with 0 degrees.
I mean, it works for the other main hube, so I don't see why it wouldn't work for the one that has 8 bends, right?
It's fine. So basically just sliding all the way through to his first mark. And then
Luckily, I really remember what I bent it to from last time.
you're getting good at him now.
Yeah.
So then basically we just use this to put on the end of the tube to get the rotation right, but this thing's getting really mangled just from getting tightened down, and if you get a bend too close and it sucks it into the bender, this is what happens. So it's almost time to retire this one.
It worked.
It's like completely spread out.
Hey, I grew an attachment to this thing.
You can hang it on the wall.
It's a love-hate relationship.
Okay, let's go lunch. Hungry.